A few weeks ago, a friend contacted me to see if I'd help him get a car going. It was good to hear from him, so I was like, hell yeah, man. Tell me about it. And that's when he told me that it had been sitting for 14 years. I was like, okay, well, we can still give it a shot. And then he was like, yeah, there was a fire in the engine bay. And then I was like, well, let's just, let me come take a look at it and we'll see. So a week after we first spoke, I show up and this is what I see. It was a 1986 300ZX. After taking a brief look at it, I figured, man, let's go for it. What do we have to lose? And I get to spend time with a friend who I haven't seen in a while. But I did tell him, hey man, you're in the driver's seat. So if we get too deep and you want to pull the plug, that's your call. So the next time I came over, I brought some tools and we both brought some jack stands and some jacks and we got to work. Jacking a car up on a combination of dirt, grass, and leaves is always fun. But I bought 4 pavers so that we could sit the jack stands on them so that they wouldn't sink into the ground. While locating the jack points, I was pleased to see that this car had very little rust. I noticed some surface rust, but nothing on the frame or nothing that was structural and that would be of concern. I could tell Brad had been deadlifting. As I was trying to position one of the jack stands, I said, hey man, can you go lift the back of the car? He said, no problem, dude. He went and lifted the back of the car as if I was asking him to hold the door open so I could walk through. After we had the car secured on jack stands, it was time to open the hood, assess the damage, and start making a parts list. A possum greeted us when we opened the hood. It dove into the engine bay and we couldn't find it, so we just kept working. We assumed it had left. But we were wrong. Brad's dad told us that after we left, that possum came out from under the car. We did spray a few areas with insecticide though, because I did not want to get bitten by a spider. The radiator fan was melted, so we used a 10mm socket to take it off. And then we had to see if the engine was seized. Okay, I think you're good. It's rotating. So yeah, so the engine's not seized. That's enough. That's good news. So we then moved on to inspecting all the wiring harnesses to see if there was any damage. I was surprised. There was hardly any damage to the wiring anywhere. The only damage we saw was on the head temperature sensor harness and on some wires that powered some audio equipment. And that was it. We knew some coolant hoses were damaged, so we started taking things apart to get to them. There's a short section of hose that is more like a coupling that goes from this hard coolant tube to the thermostat housing. So we're gonna have to order that. And of course, we're gonna replace the thermostat as well. We also noticed some fuel line that is starting to degrade. So we're gonna replace all the flexible fuel line that we can find. We also found this cracked hose. It goes from the intake to a device that we have yet to identify. It's not mentioned or pictured in the manual that we have, so we're gonna have to do a little more research. And there's a recall for this car that involved the fuel injectors. They would leak and cause fires. It's looking more and more like that was the cause of this one. So we need to get new injectors and new O-rings. And we'll replace all the associated fuel lines. As far as the interior goes, all the important stuff is there and intact. It's not in bad shape, but we will address the interior once we see what's required to get the car going mechanically. And lastly, this thing needs to be able to roll, so we are at least going to find some used tires to throw on it. So those are the things we're going to tackle first. I do anticipate that as we get it going, other things are going to pop up, because after all, it's been sitting for 14 years. But this is the stuff I love. And if you'd like to see how we get this 300ZX back on the road, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care.